All right, everybody, how are you? Hope you all had a good Thanksgiving. Hope you are all well rested. It is Friday, Black Friday. We are here at Prince Street. It is one of the busiest shopping days of the year. Now, I do just want to say, please excuse me, because for some reason over the past 15 minutes, I could not stop hiccuping. I don't know what's going on, but I can't kick it. So hopefully as we walk around, the hiccups will dissipate. That being said, markets closed higher across the board, with the NASDAQ, S&P 500, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average closing markedly higher on the week and the day. We're going to be talking about some holiday sales statistics. Now, we do have some real-time data coming out of Adobe. And so far this year, we are on track to break records, at least for online sales. So we're going to be talking about that a little bit. But without further ado, let's see who we have in the chat. I see Demtix is here, Solo 401, Vinny Castellano, good to see you, British Gray, Paul Greenwell, Louis Garcia, Al Baker. Ooh, we got the skateboarders. I see Pup is here, welcome, Delia Kelly, Joseph Hardaway, DWG, Edward Adams. Always a pleasure to see you. Sabrina Fair, William Wilson is here, good to see you, Steamship. Welcome. Trust you're well. It's a pretty windy night here in New York, but not too cold. I would say maybe in the mid to high 40s, potentially. Gregory is here, welcome. U.S. Soccer Talks is Tom, did you watch the match? I'm happy with the draw, but we need to beat Iran and we're in. Yeah, I was watching it. It was a pretty good game. Now, a little disappointed that it was a draw, especially a 0-0 draw, by the way. So a little bit disappointing there, but I think we played well. I think we played all right. Now, I was actually watching it down here near NYU. Tons of people, by the way, coming out to watch the U.S. soccer game against England. And I do have to say, at this particular place where I was at, a lot more English fans than U.S. But tonight we're going to be walking uptown. You know, I actually wanted to go all the way downtown to the New York Stock Exchange, but I think we'll do that tomorrow. I think it's going to be a little bit easier and better if we do that on Saturday as opposed to doing it tonight, just because of the train schedules. And hopefully I can kick these hiccups. I've never had hiccups in like 5 years, but for some reason tonight it just started at a random. I don't know. We'll see. Lee says, done great considering it's not the #1 sport. That's true. That is true. But over the past couple of years, the United States has really been putting a lot of time, energy, and effort into soccer for sure. So, yeah, Rod Johnson says hiccups are the worst. I don't know what the heck. I haven't had these things. I can't even remember how long. Maybe since I was like a little kid. But they are the worst, man. The worst. Tito says, Tom, you are on the block straight down here and make a left. That's Prince Street Pizza. One of my favorite pizza shops here in New York City. Really awesome place to be born and raised. Al Baker says, drink water. Al, I think that's the reason why I have them. I was slamming water all today. Lena Sandoval is here. Welcome. Good to see you. Adriana, yes. I think that may be the reason why I got them. I was drinking way too much water today. Arctic Trend. Good to see you. Says you need to hold your breath for 30 seconds. I tried all that stuff. I think it's just going to be best if I just forget about it, right? Isn't that how it usually works? If you try to forget about it, then they'll just magically go away. Very, very windy. Now, if you look all the way across the street, I don't know what it is about this block, particularly in NoHo, but there must be some homeless guy or something that turns over the garbage cans every night. Turns over there, turns over here, every day. I don't know what the hell's going on. I remember we were walking and doing the live stream last week, and in the same spot, this guy just kicks it over. I mean, I don't know if it's a guy, girl, or who's doing it, but every single trash can. Anyway, very windy night, everybody. Check out this building. It's one of my favorite apartments in NoHo. Yeah. Sally, welcome. Thank you for being here. Yes, Stephanie Stanley, I appreciate that. Yeah, it was wild stream last night. Fun stream, but wild stream, I would say. Fun, but wild. We're coming up on one of my favorite coffee shops. Oh my God. Black Press Coffee. No, Gasoline Alley Coffee, I apologize. Black Press is my second favorite. That is on 72nd Street in Columbus, which we were actually supposed to go to yesterday. Julia M is here. Good to see you, Julia. Thanks for being here. Tiago Pereira, good to see you. Yeah, it looks like they're knocking over everything. Both planters whatever can be knocked over on this block, it apparently will be knocked over. Near Bleecker Street, which is quite strange. So if you ever walk down Lafayette, what can be knocked over will be knocked over, apparently. John, welcome. Good to see you, and thanks for joining tonight. I think we'll make a right here. We haven't been down to the Bowery in quite some time on the stream. Now, I do want to cover a couple things tonight, but not a lot to... Oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm going to make it through the stream with the hiccups, but not a lot to cover because obviously it was a shortened trading day on the street. But some encouraging news. If you take a look at this ticker, I think it's going to provide a lot of value for you. And that ticker is MMTH, okay? So MMTH is sort of like an indice that tracks the amount or percent of stocks that are above their 200-day moving average. And the good news is that we actually just broke out above our August highs. The swing high in August was about 41. We're now trading at 45. And the reason why that's encouraging news is because that means the breadth of the market is improving materially, which is very, very good sign. It means more participation. Hey, Dusty Cole, good to see you. Thank you so much. Sunshine After Rain is joining us. Good to see you, Sunshine. Hopefully you had a good Thanksgiving with you and your family. Rafet is here. Welcome. Fabio says, are you Italian? I'm a mix. I'm a mixed 50-50. About 50% Irish, 50% Italian. So very stereotypical. Look at how interesting this is with these sort of 1990s style TVs. Anybody remember having these? These massive box/square TVs. It's kind of cool to actually see them here. Oh, it looks like this is a boxing place. Very cool. Really unique. Look at how massive. I can't believe TVs actually used to look like that. That's wild. Yeah, Susan Wallen says, yeah. Wow, August Ice, you still have one. Interesting. Sean 35. Good to see you, Sean. Yeah, Adriana, my Thanksgiving was great. Thank you for asking, by the way. I hope yours was good as well. It was nice. I spent it on Long Island, which is roughly, well, depending on where you go, right? About 35, 40 minutes to an hour east of Manhattan. So here we are at the Bowery, East 2nd Street. Take a look at the view of the Empire State Building we have here. Beautiful view of Midtown. I don't think I've ever taken you guys over here, at least not in a long time. Hey, Paul Greenwell, thank you so much for the congratulations. Yeah, I think we actually did just hit 25,000 people on the channel, which is unbelievable. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to Walks on Wall Street. Never in a million years did I think it would get this big. So I appreciate it. It's a very, very good time we have here, and thank you for watching. Buy the Book is here. Good to see you, Buy the Book. Thank you for joining us as we walk through Bowery tonight. I think we may head all the way over to Delancey Street just to see what's going on over there. I can't even remember the last time I took you guys there. Mike says, how many blocks are you from Empire State? I would say over 40. Maybe like 39, 40 blocks. Hey, Jay, good to see you. So just thought I'd say hello, Tom. Good to see you, Jay. Thank you for joining us tonight on this Black Friday event in New York City. Now, a major stock we pay attention to all the time is Apple, ticker symbol AAPL. It was down about 2% on the day. And we were talking about the news coming out of Apple as it relates to Foxconn and the working conditions being so poor with all the riots and everything. And I have a feeling that at least some of that movement today was due to the Foxconn riots. Here's another trash can tilted over. Oh, and another one. That's crazy. We must be on like a rabbit trail to find the guy who's doing it, or girl, or somebody. Maybe an animal, raccoon, who knows. So we're turning left at the Whole Foods. This should take us all the way down to Delancey. Yeah, John Sorlis's last night was a blast. Very, very fun stream. I had a good Thanksgiving. Hopefully you did too. Let me try to adjust the brightness here. Oh man, the wind is brutal tonight. Jeez. Hey, Hawaii's here. It says, hey Tom, did you buy yourself anything today? I did not. I didn't buy anything for Black Friday, but I do have to. I actually have to buy a lot of stuff. And I need to buy a completely new wardrobe. As it relates, I gotta buy at least 3 to 4 suits. Everything I have is so worn out and shot. Well, it looks like we're getting closer to the guy. Looks like he just went on a rampage. Anything that could be turned over definitely was turned over. FredX is here. God bless. Good to see you, FredX. But yeah, I gotta buy a lot of stuff actually. I gotta get all new suits. I gotta get another jacket, shoes. Pixel Logic is here. Good to see you. Says be safe, Tom. Hopefully you had a good Thanksgiving Pixelogic. Hey, Ignacio is here. Says hello, everybody. Good to see you, Ignacio. Yeah, Jay says, I know the feeling on the wardrobe. And the reason being is once, because I used to have to go into the office every day. So I'd have to suit up, go actually meet clients face to face. And once the pandemic hit, I really haven't changed my wardrobe. It's just been the same rotation of suits, because very seldom do I actually have to, go in anymore, meet with people. Excuse me for the hiccups, for those of you who are just joining. I have a horrible case of the hiccups. It's killing me, I don't know why. But I think I'm gonna have to go back in more and meet clients, get back out there again. So I gotta completely buy a whole new wardrobe. Yeah, Ignacio, I did watch the USA England game. I thought it was a pretty good game. I was just disappointed that it was a draw, scoreless too. Hey, NG is here. Says happy holidays, Tom and friends. NG, right back at you. Thank you so much for joining tonight. I know, SME Media, you're right. Yeah, DA says hold your breath for 15 seconds. I tried all that stuff. We'll see. All right, so we're getting closer here, everybody, to Delancey. I saw a comment here. Let me read it. Fabio says, Tom, can you recommend any courses / programs in New York for anybody working in the financial market? Courses about the financial markets. I don't know. I think maybe if you want to get your CMT, you could do that. But if you just want to learn more about the investment business, I would just recommend a few books, right? Also, if you want to really understand the core competencies of analyzing financial balance sheets, things like that, financial statements, there's a professor that's local here to NYU. And the cool thing is he has two main finance courses. One of which is called Valuation. And excuse me if I'm pausing when I'm speaking. I'm trying not to hiccup in the camera. So the professor's name is Damodaran, Professor Othswat Damodaran. He's considered to be the dean of valuation. And on his YouTube channel, he actually posts all his courses for free for you to watch, which is great. So instead of going to NYU Stern and actually being enrolled in the class, which is also fantastic, if you want to actually take the course, you could do that for free by just going to his YouTube channel, right? And I think I've actually linked that in the description. Two famous courses, Securities Analysis and Corporate Finance by Professor Damodaran. It must be over, I don't know, maybe 40 hours of coursework on there. All right, right across the street is the very famous Katz Delicatessen. Now, I still think it's cash only even now. So, but it is very good. Mike C, good to see you. Hey, Tyler Phillips, thank you so much for the $10 donations. It's happy Thanksgiving, brother, and be safe. I appreciate that very much. Thank you for the support and the donation. I much appreciate it. hopefully you had a fantastic Thanksgiving as well. Yeah, so Jay says it's tough to get the right wardrobe because the clothes make the man, and you want to impress. Yeah, I usually have like 3 main suits, right, and a mixture of shirts and things like that, which will usually last me. But I've come to the point where I've exhausted everything, so I gotta completely just buy. I have to go shopping. It's getting really terrible. All right, so this is Avenue A now. Gary Carpenter is here. Good to see you, Gary. Robert says, hey, Tom and friends. What's up, Robert? Welcome. Fetty F says, what's the name of the professor again? Thank you and nice stream. His name is Professor Demodaran. I do not know how to spell it, but I think it's spelled exactly how it sounds if you sound it out. And he actually, if you want to buy the textbook, right, that's actually used in the course. Oh man, it's so windy. That's actually used in the course at NYU Stern. If you go to Amazon and you type in Valuation by Demodaran, it'll pop up. And if you want to get it used off of Amazon, it's like $5. And that'll give you a baseline, that'll give you a baseline understanding of actually how to do the basics, right? Because I think a lot of people, they think investing in the stock market is just, throwing a dart at the board, going on Reddit and seeing what the new meme stock is. That's not really investing, right? So if you want to understand how to evaluate a business, how to build a discounted cash flow model, how to read a balance sheet, cash flow statement, it's the book. His textbook is like $5 used, and you could actually go to his YouTube channel where he uploads his lectures for free. Now, if you want to pay for the course, the good news is, I think after many, many years of being requested from NYU, they are now offering it as a certificate. So you could take each individual course, and then upon completion of those courses, they will give you some sort of a certification, but that is very expensive. Joseph Hardaway, thank you so much for the $5 donation. This is Happy Friday. Happy Friday to you too. Thank you for joining as we head to the east side here near Katz's Deli. Thank you, Joseph Hardaway, for the donation. Appreciate it. M says, good evening, Tom. Hope you've had a good week. I've had a fantastic week. I trust you have had a good week as well. Hey, Ignatius, is this Midtown? No, this is not. This is actually the east side, Lower East Side. If we keep walking over, we'll hit into like the Delancey area. But I think we'll make a left, because I've never showed you guys these neighborhoods before down here. I haven't been here in a while either. Tug Carter says, Miami next week, Tom, question mark. Maybe. I do have a couple meetings in the city. I am not too sure when I am going to be headed back to Miami just yet, but I will let you know. Okay, so Photos from Around New York, which is our great moderator, he posted the link, I think, to the professor at NYU. So if you just punch that in on YouTube, you'll see his channel, and he's nice enough to actually upload his lectures to YouTube for everybody to watch. Now, his delivery is kind of dry, right? So I think it's very important that you sort of prepare yourself for that mentally. It's like very, very dry. but it's good, right? So you got to sort of force yourself through it. Ed, thank you so much, MAGA Ed, for the $1 donation. I appreciate it. Thank you for supporting the channel. Appreciate you. Wow, look at this bar here, everybody. Hey, Robert, thank you so much for the $5 donation. Says congratulations on 25,000 subs, Tom. Thank you so much, man. That's insane. I really, really appreciate everybody joining who participates in the streams. Man, that's wild. 25,000 people. We could fit into like a small stadium, right? I think Madison Square Garden is what, like 23,000, 24,000? That's fantastic. I appreciate it, everybody. Yeah, a lot of bars down here. Julia M, I'm not too sure. I didn't see anything on the news. I don't know if they caught the guy. But that was wild. That was quite a sight we saw. All right, we'll go up 2 more and then we'll make a left. So let's make a left on 8th. So we'll go up a couple more and we'll make a left on 8th. For the Love of God is here. Welcome. Good to see you, For the Love of God. Appreciate it. Fetty says, hey, Tom, what's the best time of the year to visit New York? In my opinion, it's probably, well, it depends on what you like, right? I'm a real big fan of summer, so I like it hot. But if you don't like it hot, I would say visit anywhere between, you know, in the springtime is good. But it seems as if as of late, the only problem with that is it's been really rainy and cold these past few Mays in New York for whatever reason. But I love the summer. I don't think you could beat being in New York City in the summer. It's really, really fantastic. Hey, Top G is here. This is another dope professor at NYU Stern. This is Scott Galloway. Yeah. There's a lot of good professors at NYU. Who's the other one? Professor, I forget his name. Is it Rabini? Professor Rabini, something like that, I think. Danielle says, just got a book for myself to read, Stocks for the Long Run, 6th edition. That's a very good book too. Love that book. Golden Dawn says, good evening, Tom. One of the team last night said he saw on the Citizens app that the guy was in custody. Hey, very cool. Well, that's good. Yeah, I mean, if you do something like that in the city, especially in Midtown, there's like a 0% chance you're getting away with that, honestly, for obvious reasons. I mean, there's cameras everywhere in the city, especially in Midtown by the Hudson Yards. The Mighty Bull, good to see you. Thank you for joining us tonight. Trust you are well. NYC Eyes says, Tom, it's cold outside. It's actually not too bad as when I first came here. We were really, really freezing temperature. I think we were down in like the 20s. So anyway, I think what we covered, ticker symbol MMTH, right? For those of you who are just joining, I think it's very important to look at that because excuse me if I'm pausing, I just don't want to hiccup right in the camera for you guys, because it tracks the percentage of stocks that are trading above the 200-day moving average, okay? And if you remember about 6 months ago, try to go down this way to avoid the wind. About 6 months ago, I wrote a piece in the Behind the Street newsletter, sort of describing what a thin market was. And that is when the vast majority of stocks in the indice are not participating in the rally. And that is what we've been seeing a lot. Once we got these two follow-through days 2 weeks ago, one of the things that we've noticed is that only about, I would say, energy stocks and some of the biotechs and healthcare stocks were really taking off and participating. So if you look at ticker symbol MMTH, we have now broken out above the swing high of 41. We are now at 45, so about 45% of stocks in the S&P 500 are trading back above the 200-day moving average, which is fantastic. So we're starting to see more participation. But as we've been talking about, if you look at the indice itself, we are rallying right into a declining 200-day. So if you want to pull up the SPX on tradingview.com or something like that, that is my recommended free software for charting. Put a 200-day moving average on the chart and you will see sort of what we're talking about there with the 200-day declining. Hey, Sparks Carnival, good to see you, my friend. Thank you for being here. Hopefully you are well. Man, I didn't know. I really have to get a mic. Now, I used to have a microphone, but it broke. But I think as we head into the winter months here in New York, I got to get a microphone because the wind is just so brutal in New York City. Oh my gosh. Lost my hat. It's so windy. All right, let's cut into the island a little bit, because usually the further east or west you go, the more wind. Oh man, that is absolutely brutal. Yeah, Edward Adams. This is really whipping around now. Now, I think if you're going to move to New York, I think I've said this before, but when you look at places in the summer and in the spring, I actually think that's a bad idea, because the winters are very brutal here in New York City. So you really have to understand how the environment is in the winter, or you're going to be miserable. So I would avoid places like the Lower East Side. I would avoid some of the places in Fidei, especially near Water Street and South Street Seaport, because these places are absolutely gorgeous in the spring, summer, and fall. But be prepared for a very long winter, because the wind is probably 5x what it is in those specific locations than it is in, say, Midtown Manhattan. And it is frigid cold. Wow, Pup says, I think I would just be happy just to see snow. Never seen it before in my life. It's insane. JM, good to see you. This is actually a pretty good coffee shop here. It's called The Bean. But I actually used to go to the other one. I think it's right near NYU. No, it's actually near St. Mark's Place. Look, they drew the snowman with the NYU jacket up. Hey, BMS STs. I was just out there, it's very quiet. Good to see ya. I know, FredX has just watched the incident from last night. Kind of crazy, right? Now, when I first started working here, when I was like a teenager, I actually saw something very similar on my first day at work ever. Yeah, Ren 1018, that's true. Anywhere near the water, avoid. Because it's really different, right? And I don't think people realize it until they've experienced a couple winters here. Jay says, so did you get any clothes today? No, I didn't have time today. I think I'm going to do that all over the weekend, so tomorrow and Sunday. So I'll probably spend those days. I got to buy at least 2 to 3 suits. I mean, the ones I have now are totally shot. Absolutely shot. Yeah, Edward Adams, I did hear about that. So Edward's talking about the LIRR coming to Grand Central Station. It's called the East Side Access Project. And it was supposed to be done many, many years ago. I've been hearing about this for years, but supposedly it's actually coming to fruition, which is really interesting. So I'm happy about it. I would definitely take the LIRR to Grand Central every day, as opposed to Penn Station, just because Grand Central's a nicer terminal. Hey, Amar says, hey Tom, happy Thanksgiving. I did have a good one. I hope you had a fantastic one as well. Oh, check out this coffee shop. I kind of like the interior. Looks cool. Using people says, are you a fan of energy drinks? No, not really. I don't really drink. I don't think I ever drink energy drinks besides coffee, right? Coffee is pretty much just stimulants, caffeine, but the energy drinks, no, I really don't. Ignacio, yeah, I've tried everything, man. I've tried it. Trust me, I know all the tricks. So for some Black Friday data, at least preliminary, right? We heard from Adobe. Let's turn down this way. This will take us further in the island. Hopefully block out some of the wind. But we heard from Adobe, and they say that online sales, at least so far, are going to set a record at about $5.29 billion. Excuse me, that is the $5.29 billion number is what consumers spent on Thanksgiving this year, which is actually up 2.9% year over year. Now, the reason why I wanted to talk about that is because I don't think those numbers factor in inflation, right? Because if you think about the dollar amount that the average American spent on Thanksgiving dinner, it was about 25% higher than last year. So if you think about that increase, I would bet anything that consumers probably spent more money, yes, but they actually probably got a lot less. And we've been seeing this in a lot of specific earnings reports too, especially as it relates to Home Depot is one of the ones that stand out as we look for the average ticket price, right? So average ticket price tends to be up, so people are spending more money at Home Depot, but it is because inflation is actually increasing at the fastest pace in many, many years since the 1980s. Sparks Carnival. No, I'm not cold. I just have the hiccups. It was crazy. About 15 minutes before I started the live stream, I started hiccuping. I have no idea why. I don't even remember the last time I've ever gotten them. But they're brutal, man. They are brutal. I think they'll probably go away within the next couple minutes here as we walk. And I think it's because I drank way too much water too fast. Malcolm says, but are those figures on credit cards? They didn't get into the specifics, but I would imagine so. I would imagine some of it is, right? I don't know. I'll ask you guys in the chat. Did you figure that this year you spent more on Thanksgiving dinner than you did last year, right? Or more on Thanksgiving in general? Or would you say about the same? Would you say about the same and then you got less food? Who knows? Hey, Ann is here. Good to see you, Ann. We are at Astor Place. Headed uptown. So we are actually right near the IBM Watson building. Alright, so here we are at Astor Place. And here is the Cube. Sparks Carnival says, I think good things are coming for IBM. It's very possible. Now, I think I posted this to my Twitter account. And IBM is actually trading near 52-week highs. The stock has been under significant accumulation. And it has a dividend, it has a dividend yield of 4.44%. Which sort of makes sense as to why the stock is getting accumulated, right? Because it's not like a super high, fast revenue grower, right? If anything, revenues have stagnated as the company has gotten very, very big. But they pay out a very hefty dividend yield. And in this environment, that's what consumers want, or that's what investors want. All right, so we are going to head near Washington Square Park. Man, the wind is absolutely brutal today. Maryam. This is IBM at a time of growth. Oh my God. Brad's brain, yeah, I think so. I went back and watched it a little bit. So Malcolm says in the UK we don't do Thanksgiving, but I do give my time and money to the homeless charities here in Newcastle. Love that. It's fantastic. I appreciate that. All right, so we are walking up Broadway towards 14th Street. And I think once we get north of 14th Street, the wind is going to die down on us. Edward Adams says, be advised, rain on Sunday. Okay, so someone says we had roasted chicken to save money this year instead of turkey. You know, I heard that there was a turkey shortage in Manhattan. But out on Long Island, I don't think it was an issue. Anybody else hear that? Using Noodles says, do you think there will ever be a hedge fund better than Renaissance Technologies as it relates to annualized returns? I mean, probably. Now, usually the funds that, at least as of late, that generate the most alpha over their benchmark are usually the quantitative hedge funds, typically. So yeah, I think there's going to be new quant strategies, new funds coming out over the next couple of years that are probably going to be better performers, probably. All right, here we are at the Strand. East 12th Street. Dee says, ran into an old coworker the other day, and they did not give out turkey this year because of the shortage. Wow. Yeah, I didn't really experience any of that. When I was in Miami, I saw turkeys. When I was in out on Long Island. I saw them. I don't know. Maybe it's just the New York City thing. Who knows? Somebody's asking about what do I think about the FTX thing. Yeah, so we've talked about it quite a bit on the live stream. And I've sort of, my thesis remains consistent, right? Anytime you have these alternative cryptos, I would stay away from it, especially as it relates to the exchanges, right? So if you have any exchange that issues its own token, I would stay away from it. Because in essence, they're printing money out of thin air with these crypto tokens, right? And using that to fund the operations. And that's a big problem. And many of them think they can get away with it because they're technically not classified as securities, but we all know they are, right? Now, in the case of FTX, what Sam Bankman-Fried was doing is using customer deposits to speculate in the market, to buy personal items like houses, cars, and he was using this facade of this big philanthropic, generous guy, this billionaire that wears a t-shirt walking around in shorts. But it was sort of all a front. And really, it was pushed really hard by a lot of the mainstream media, and it still is being pushed pretty hard too. Especially by the likes of the New York Times, and even the Wall Street Journal now, which is a little bit disappointing. I'm really, really disappointed in them. But yeah, it was a major, major fraud. I think it's going to be a bigger fraud than Enron, in my view. So I'll make a quick prediction on the channel. And I'm going to say this because I think that they're doing some type of musical performance over there. Now, I think the biggest organized scam is going to be ESG as a whole, but I can't expand on it because I think I'm going to get the channel taken down. But just remember, I said that. And in 5 years, I think we're going to see a big event play out where, yeah, that's all I could say because I don't want to get the stream taken down. But just remember I said that. Keep between us. Yeah, Sparks Carnivals is absolutely bigger than Enron. I completely agree. Yeah, it's horrible, and I'm really disappointed in the New York Times that they're still inviting this guy, Sam Bankman-Fried, to be a speaker at their event, right? Now, I get it that it may drive views and drive revenue. I get it, but I mean, this guy ruined a lot of people's lives. Billions of dollars lost. So I think tonight, guys, we're just gonna chill. We're gonna chill out, walk around. I can't get through the topics tonight because I think I'm just gonna be hiccuping way too much. But I may do a little write-up and post it on the community page But there was some interesting data points I wanted to give you guys, but we'll sort of take the night off to walk around, hang out, because I got to kick these hiccups, man. Yeah, the ESG stuff. I'll say this because I know some people are asking about it in the chat. I can't really give my whole big theory on it, but I think it's going to be exposed rather soon that it was just used as a mechanism to drive AUM growth and boost management fees for a lot of these companies. And as a way for more dominant control. Because you need to understand, one of the things that I always say on the streams is if you want the answers to pretty much anything in life, there's only one thing you have to do, and that's follow the money. And the biggest capital allocators here are the big investment firms, but through that, they invest other people's money in the form of large pension funds. And in order to dictate where that money goes, big investment firms will be able to put huge influence over companies to say, hey, if you don't meet our ESG standards, you're not going to get our investment dollars. And they'll make up any sort of hokey nonsense to say why you're not meeting that ESG score. And what I think you're using it to sort of manipulate the behavior of organizations, of private organizations, to say, if you don't do this, well, you're not going to get investment dollars from us. We're going to pull our funds. And they're doing it on a larger scale with countries too, especially like emerging market countries, where if you notice, the countries with the best ESG scores are the countries that are most stricken with poverty. Have you ever noticed that? The most of them are third world countries. And again, I could really go in and explain, but maybe we'll save that for the newsletter, something. Stephanie says Hall's cough drops also help with hiccups. Do they really have to get? I'll just check it out. I'll have to get it. Hey, Dre, Hawaii, this is Tom. Do you work at different offices all over the city? Yeah, so I use WeWork. So WeWork is very convenient. It's also very affordable. Now, for I think it's $2.99 I pay, I think. And it allows you access to any building, not only in the United States, but all over the world too. And some of which are 24/7, 365. So it's a pretty good deal. So instead of spending a bunch of money on, 24 to 36 month lease on one dedicated office space, I think it's better just to do, $2.99 a month. You could work wherever you want. And it saves you thousands of dollars. It's pretty good too. The offices are nice, they're clean. Yeah, Rich, I know, I've tried all that. But let's try to keep the political stuff in the chat to a minimum. Yeah, anchovies, it sounds like a great setup. It is, it's nice. I love WeWork. Now, speaking of controversy, WeWork is another huge controversial business. And that's because a lot of other investors too, like SoftBank's Masayoshi-san, who is a very famous Japanese investor who owns the SoftBank Group. He also invested billions of dollars in that business. I think it was just, they grew way too fast, too quickly. Beautiful view of the empire. Mimi's son is not Japanese. Really? What is he then? SoftBank is a Japanese company. Mimi, are you serious, or is that... No, I think, yeah, SoftBank is a Japanese company. Mimi says he is Korean Japanese, but SoftBank is a Japanese company. Yeah, same thing, man. Whatever. Yeah, I used to do some work for them. So hey, Kevin Campbell, I'm not sure if they did. Supposedly some others said they saw it on the Citizens app that they did, but we'll see. Now, the strange thing is that SoftBank, or not SoftBank, excuse me, WeWorks I actually think was inadvertently saved by the pandemic, as weird as that may sound. Because the pandemic really taught everybody that you could be just as productive working remotely as you can in the office. So why would a lot of these big organizations, big companies spend tons of money on long-term leases when they could adopt a hybrid model? When they can adopt a hybrid model and maybe, work in a WeWork for a couple days out of the week and save a ton of money. So I think the pandemic was actually a saving grace for WeWorks, as weird as it sounds. Yeah, Aaron Fraser says WeWorks was a little bit before its time. That's true too. It's definitely true. Facebook, or Meta, I should say, is sort of trying to do the same thing. Did anybody notice the amount of money Meta is spending to get out of their leases or break their leases? It's over $1 billion. Now, another company, ExxonMobil, which we talked about, they're trying to sell off some of their massive headquarters in Houston, or at least sublease some of the space, because they use less than 50% of the entire capacity. Hey, Mary Lamb, good to see you. Says, I stayed at a hotel in London that had a public workspace in the lobby, many long-term residents there to live and work. That's fantastic. Hub says, I hope they don't go completely remote because we are becoming an online world. Who knows, we probably won't leave the house one day. Yeah, I think just I think things are getting more efficient, and things tend to get more efficient over time. And, there's been studies done that shows one of the biggest things that drives productivity is worker confidence and happiness. So usually you're most productive when you have the optimal amount of stress, right? You need stress to be productive. I'm sure many of you had a day at work where the day just absolutely flew by. It's like you got to the office and then you pick your head up and you're like, oh my gosh, it's time to go home. And chances are you were really, really busy that day, but it was sort of the optimal amount of stress where you were crushing through your work. Maybe you closed some deals, maybe you got a good performance review, whatever it was, but you got a ton accomplished and it seemed like time was almost an illusion. And I think remote work, or I should say hybrid work, is going to bring about a lot of those feelings, right? If you can just go to the office Mondays, Thursdays, I think that's going to make a lot of people want to work for their particular company, as opposed to drag themselves in the office 5 days a week. Yeah, Ghostly says stress can be a powerful motivator. Yeah, Fabio, that is a good point. Yeah, and there's been many studies about it too. It's sort of like your flow state, right? You get into a state of flow where you're working, you're feeling productive, you have that optimal amount of stress, and you're almost in cruise control. It's like a lot of writers get this. I'm not sure if there's any writers in the chat, but sometimes it could feel like you just can't put pen to paper, or you stare at the computer screen and you physically you just cannot write. But once you start to write a few sentences, a few paragraphs, it's like you're locked in and you cannot stop writing or you're gonna break that flow state. It's sort of the same thing with this. All right, so now we are crossing 29th Street. Check out this shot of the Empire State Building from here. Hey, Ignacio says, I think the hardest thing is starting. After that's easy to keep going. 100% true. Agreed. Yeah, NJ, I heard about that. You're right. I think Amazon also cut back on some of the expansion projects too. Man, that's a really, really nice shot. says, do you think remote work will help rebuild economies in small towns, etc.? I know some places tried to incentivize remote workers to come. Yeah, I saw that too. So there's a lot of local municipalities and some of the flyover states that have been really, I would say, impacted by the brain drain of Wall Street and Silicon Valley. So if you notice, and not all the time, right? I'm about to make a very big generalization here. But in most cases, the coasts, I should say, you think about a place like New York City, like we're walking through now, You think about in California, Silicon Valley, they've really been a brain drain for a lot of talent, right? So the top people, the smartest people tend to gravitate towards those cities because of the infrastructure, right? So during the pandemic, there's been a lot of the flyover states and even more local municipalities that have been offering relocation bonuses, right? So if you agreed to move to these flyover states full time, sometimes they were offering, up to, $10,000, $20,000 just to relocate and be a remote worker in those specific towns. Will it work? I don't know. I truly believe that people go to where they want to live, right? And it may sound obvious, but even though, so let's say a place like New York City, right? Very controversial. It's always in the media. A lot of people complaining about the political environment, but at the end of the day, everybody wants to be here, right? It's the same thing in California. It's the same thing in all major cities, because it's not really the politics that make the city. It's the people and it's the infrastructure, right? And it just so happens that the better the location is, the more stuff to do, the more fun it is, the better climate, the better weather. People tend to want to live there, regardless of sort of any of the nonsense that goes on, right? I sort of put it like this. I think people are, the better place you live, right? I think New Yorkers are willing to put up with a lot more nonsense just because it's New York City, right? Let's say if you lived in I don't want to name a specific state. I don't want to knock on anybody, but let's say if you lived in just a random state, run of the mill, nothing really too exciting about it, and then all of a sudden you had an explosion of crime. Well, chances are you're probably not going to tolerate that because there's nothing to keep you there, right? But major cities, major hubs tend to be where people want to be, regardless of, different economic ups or downs, depending on political environment. So I think New York is very interesting and unique in that way. Also, other major cities in California, like San Francisco, maybe not so much San Francisco, but I think New York holds that very unique privilege, almost, so to speak. Yeah, Rich Child 9 says, I live in Texas because that's where I want to be. True. What part of Texas? I was actually in Texas for the first time ever in my life. I went to Austin. Austin was a pretty cool town. Not too bad. The only complaint I would say is I think if you wanted to live in Austin, you probably need to have a car. You probably need to drive. I don't think it's not too walkable, I would say. Not too walkable. Adam is here. Good to see you, Adam. Welcome. Hey, Ryan Beck. Good to see you. Happy Thanksgiving. Hopefully you had a fantastic day with you and your family. We have now reached Herald Square, 34th Street, as we will make our way uptown. Wow, so I want says Tom, I recently read that millennials were the least geographically mobile generation. Most not moving more than 150 miles away from home. Is that true? Wow. That actually makes sense now that I'm thinking about it a little bit, because it's probably a cost issue, right? Because if you think about the millennials, and even now some Gen Z too, chances are, I would say one of the major problems facing millennials and Gen Z is class mobility, right? And we've been talking about this as it relates to the wealth divide in this country. Chances are if you went to college, you're probably saddled in a lot of student loan debt, which makes it very, very difficult for you to pick up and mobilize and move other places. And I think specifically if you think about a place like New York or even in any major city, you're seeing children live with their parents for longer and longer periods of time. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, right? Because if you're living with your parents, into your mid-20s, but you're going to work, you're doing the right thing, you're saving your money, then I think that's actually a very smart play, right? If you could just, reason or ration with your parents and say, hey, I'm never going to be able to afford my own place, I'm never going to be able to afford an investment property if I rent and just sort of blow my money on rent. If you have the ability to maybe, stay with family or friends to cut down on that major expense, so long as you're not going out and blowing it at the bars every night, and you're actually saving it for an investment down the road, I think that's a good play, and I think it's almost necessary, especially in this type of economic environment. So it actually makes sense if they're saying the vast majority of millennials are not moving so long as 150 miles away from their home. Maybe it makes sense. Hey, Ibrahim Azam, what's up, my friend? He says, hope I don't take on a lot of debt after I finish college. Hey, Fabio says, I'm a millennial that moved from Brazil to New York. Love that. That's a distance. So the day after Thanksgiving in New York, it's Pigeons Thanksgiving. So this is when all the pigeons chow down here on outside of Macy's. Oh, that's right. I completely forgot. It is Black Friday, so Macy's is probably open really late. Now, according to Adobe, some preliminary data, Adobe says that consumers spent a record $5.29 billion on Thanksgiving Day. That was up 2.9% year over year. But as it relates to Black Friday, they said Black Friday is on track to top $9 billion in online sales for the first time, okay? And that is the data that we have so far from Adobe. So they track a lot of the purchases leading up to and on Black Friday. And it seems as if we're already going to have about $9 billion in online sales. If you want to go down even deeper and think about the individual products that a lot of people are buying this year, they said the number one product that consumers are buying online this year for Black Friday is actually the Apple Watch and Apple AirPods. Now, this last one that I'm about to read, I actually have no idea what it is, so maybe somebody could provide some clarity or some context in the chat, but it's this video game. It's called Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Anyway, those are the main three things that consumers seem to be spending on this Black Friday. And again, online sales are already set to top $9 billion. Kind of crazy. Wow, Fun Feed says it's open to midnight. I didn't know that. That's late. That's really, really late. Yeah, Brad Brains, that's true. Brad says again, Tom, the $9 billion includes today's dollars. Year-over-year dollars are very relevant. Yeah, it's probably not factored in for inflation, right? Inflation adjusted spending. Something that's really cool. These guys are always out here. I think every Friday and Saturday and the weekends, handing out food to the homeless. This is awesome that they do that. It's called the Hunger Truck. Muslims Giving Back. They're out here almost every single weekend. It's really, really nice that they do this. So it's a food truck dedicated to giving food to the homeless. I think that's awesome. Diane, good to see you. Says, hey Tom, happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to you too. Hopefully you had a good one. Michelle McGraw, good to see you. Hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. As we walk up Broadway here. Now, if we want to talk about overall consumer spending for the holiday season, I think this will be fun for you guys to guess. Does anybody want to take a guess? Let's talk about last year for a minute. So, holiday spending overall last year. Does anybody want to try to guess the exact amount that Americans spent during the holiday season last year? And so, for some context, this includes throughout Thanksgiving, Black Friday, Christmas, and New Year's. Does anybody want to take a guess at the total dollar amount that was spent on the holidays last year? Hey, Abdullah is joining us. Good to see you, Abdullah. Thanks so much for joining. Hopefully you had a good one. Paulette, happy Friday, Tom. Welcome. I think we may make a right here instead of going up Broadway. Al Baker says 13 billion. Sam says 1 trillion. Close, actually. Brad's brain says 15, almost a trillion. So the almost a trillion people are actually very, very close. Stephen Bate says 200 billion. Saladas is 19 or 900 million. Nope. So total spending, okay, on last year's holiday season was $889.6 billion. That's crazy to think about it. So last year, total holiday spending, again, which includes all throughout Thanksgiving, Black Friday, throughout Christmas and New Year's, came in at $889.6 billion. Now this year, we do have some projections on spending. So holiday season, consumers in the United States for the holiday season of 2022 is projected to spend anywhere between $942.6 billion and $960 billion. That's going to be anywhere from a 6 to 8% increase year over year. Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. I know Gary Carpenter is almost $1 trillion. Wow, it's insane. The last Autobot says how much of that spending will be on credit cards. I'm not sure, but I actually think that's a really good question. Now, let me just pass these people over here for a minute. Now, there's some good news and there's some bad news at the same time, because we are seeing I think the Federal Reserve came out with their numbers. I don't think the numbers were credit cards specifically, but I think it was overall general household debt reached all-time record high levels. But this year as we pass through Q3 earnings, what we found out from a lot of the credit card issuers, right? So Bank of America, Capital One, even JP Morgan Chase, they're still seeing, as we talk about delinquencies, so short-term and long-term. So a short-term delinquency could be 30 days and below. Long-term would be about over 90 days, right? We're seeing those numbers still below pre-pandemic levels, which is good. But if we remember from Bank of America's earnings, CEO Brian Moynihan came on the conference call and actually said, even though delinquencies are below pre-pandemic levels, we are seeing a slight uptick in delinquencies. So, this could be the start of a broader based trend. We'll just have to find out. But if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and hit the subscribe button if you're new. We do these live streams about 5 days a week between New York City and Miami, talking about the financial markets. And we'd love to have you guys along for the ride. This is new. This is tables and chairs are private property and may not be removed from the plaza. Violators will be prosecuted. I kind of doubt that. But wow, look at the line for Joe's. This is crazy. Now, Joe's is all right. I'm not gonna say Joe's is not a good pizza shop, but in my personal opinion, if I'm gonna keep it real with everybody in the chat, I do not think the line at Joe's justifies the price. I mean, justifies the pizza. I actually have to plug in my battery pack. I lost track of time. We almost ran out of battery on that one. Hey JM, good to see you. You know, one of my favorite pizza shops is actually on the Upper West Side. It's called Made in New York Pizza. It's actually really, really good. I think it's way better than Joe's in my view. And the owner of Made in New York Pizza, I think they were in some litigation with Prince Street because allegedly, right, they stole the recipe for Prince Street pepperoni slice. But it's a fantastic pizza place on the Upper West Side. If anybody ever gets up there, highly, highly recommend it. Charles Deese's bankruptcy filings will increase after the holiday season. Very possible. Now, Charles D, to your point, here's my biggest concern. You know what, let's see if we could go to the Winter Village. Maybe it's open a little bit later for Black Friday. Every time we get up to the Winter Village here, it's closed, so maybe we'll see. Now, we talked about my biggest concern as it relates to corporate America. Well, I would say one of my biggest concerns is obviously interest rates are going up. So that means the cost of capital or the cost of money or debt is rising. Now, the Wall Street Journal, as well as Goldman Sachs, is forecasting that major corporations are going to have to spend an additional $200 to $300 billion to service their debt, right? And here's the thing. If you look at over the last 14 years, American corporations took on trillions of dollars worth of debt. And the reason why they were able to do that is because money was so cheap or inexpensive. Now, if you look at a lot of the companies within, let's say the Russell 2000, some mid-cap, smaller cap companies, a lot of them are what you call zombie companies. And zombie companies are really only able to be around. Oh wow, look at the color scheme on One Vanderbilt. Are really only able to be around. What was that? Maybe it was the wind. I thought somebody threw something out a window. Because they can keep taking on debt to service their existing debt, right? But that model only works when money is inexpensive. But rates have gone up, and they've gone up very, very fast. We're just coming off the back of the Federal Reserve raising interest rates 4 consecutive times to the tune of 75 basis points. Now, the next FOMC meeting is in 2 weeks, if you can believe that, December 14th to the 15th. Now, if you look at the futures market, futures are pricing in an 80% probability of an additional 50 basis point rate hike. So the reason why I'm a little bit nervous about this is because I think there's only, I shouldn't say a handful, but there's probably, I don't want to assign an exact percentage, but there's a lot of companies that may no longer be able to be in operation because their whole business model was predicated on cheap debt. So as the cost of that capital goes up, they're probably not going to be able to service this debt much longer, which could spell bad news. Let's just say that. Okay, so we are here at Bryant Park at the Winter Village. I think the ice skating rink is still here too, still in operation. Ghostly is here. Welcome, pup. Good to see you. Charlie Richardson says, beautiful night. Hey, Charlie, good to see you. Kurt Flirt says, I heard that the Fed funds rate could go up to about 5%. Yeah, so we heard from Fed President Mary Daly, who said that rates, or the Fed funds rate, or the benchmark should go to 5%, and then they will hold that steady, or a little bit of a pause there. We'll see. Now, take a look at how amazing the One Vanderbilt building looks in contrast with the clouds. I'm not sure how good it comes out on the stream. That's a really, really nice shot. The clouds are very, very, very low. Very low to the buildings here. Let's take a lap around the Winter Village and see what's up. Now, this is sort of like an outdoor dining place, which is pretty nice. This is called the porch. This is actually really nice, and I think they actually kept it open a lot later tonight since it is Black Friday. It's a nice place to come here, hang out at Bryant Park, maybe grab a drink or something after work. And this place is called The Porch. Michael Joseph says, hey Tom, I'm reading credit card debt is up like 15%. And personal savings are starting to decline because of inflation. Profit margins will shrink. Consumer spending will be less this holiday season. You make a really, really good point about profit margins. Now, if you remember from the beginning of earnings season specifically, I said, well, I think we can almost go back about a year now. And we've been in this inflationary environment, the real thick of it, for about a year. Really quick, this is a very, very good place right in front of us. This is actually my favorite spot at the Bryant Park Winter Village. This place has hot apple cider and really, really good donuts. But the only thing I will say, speaking of inflation, the prices here went up like 100% year over year. I think for one cookie, it's like maybe $7 to $10. It's expensive. But anyway, so if we rewind all the way back about a year, the progression of an inflationary environment usually goes something along the lines of this, and it's actually played out exactly like this. The first inflationary push, I should say, companies actually deal with it rather well. And what you'll see is for a short period of time, their profit margins will actually expand a little bit. And then what happens is you have all the politicians and people saying, oh, the inflation is caused by corporate greed, this and that, which is not the case, because essentially what companies have to do is they have to pass on those costs to consumers to a point. And during the first inflationary push through, what they do is across the board, they build in margin, right? So they don't have to constantly keep raising prices every month. Consumers don't really relate very well to that. So they'll make one big price hike and prices will remain stable there. And over the next couple quarters, their profit margins will be fantastic. But then as the quarters go on and as inflation continues to persist, you start to see margin compression at these businesses. And we've been seeing this across the board, right? I would say the most notable company that I would say is the whole claim to fame is very high gross margins, and that is Tesla. And we've talked about this a lot because the major stock analysts that cover Tesla, their claim is that Tesla deserves a premium valuation because if you look at all of the other autos, right? So think about GM, think about Ford. The gross margins there are single digits, maybe mid-single digits, maybe. And Tesla has done a really good job with about 30% plus gross margins. I think last quarter, maybe you guys could Google this in real time. I think gross margins contracted all the way to like 28%, right? Maybe we could see that in real time. Maybe somebody could Google that. What is the gross margins? What is Tesla's gross margins now? I think it's like 28%. So while we're doing that, this is Bank of America Tower and Salesforce Tower. Salesforce is a major enterprise software company under the ticker symbol CRM, led by Mark Benioff. And this is the lodge. They did a really, really good job this year on Winter Village. Oh, Sparks Carnival Salesforce reports earnings next week. Wow, I didn't know that. Yeah, Salesforce has turned into a mature company. I think you're going to see, and we've already seen, their PE ratio is probably going to normalize to that of a mature company. Wow, Wayne McKay says Tesla gross profit margins is 25%. It actually contracted more than I thought. Hey, Michael Joseph is exactly, Tom. Small biz lower their margin right away, and big box corporations absorb it, and they can delay it for a while. But with personal credit card going up in savings, the big box will take a hit. Yeah, I think once margins take a hit, I think that is when across the board you're going to see Didn't he say that? I think the first deliveries of the Tesla semis are going to hit at Pepsi, which should be really interesting because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of huge Tesla fans that are going to be taking some video of that. Okay, Wayne McKay says, yeah, it was PepsiCo. Love that. Hey, Derek says, hey, Tom, I hope your Thanksgiving was good. I will be in New York City next week to see all the holiday attractions. That is fantastic. Hopefully you have a great time. And hopefully the weather holds out too, because we've been getting really lucky the past couple days. It actually hasn't been super freezing. So hopefully the weather holds out for when you come. All right, team, since it is Black Friday, Thanksgiving Day weekend, I'm gonna let you guys decide. Should we head up 6th Avenue, or should we head down towards Grand Central Station and then head up 5th Avenue? I'll let you guys choose, and then we will go whichever way. Paul's question is Pepsi or Coke? I don't really drink soda, but if I had to pick, yeah, I think it would be Coca-Cola all the way, to be honest. Brenton says, how often do you travel back and forth between New York City and Miami? As of late, it's been about 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off. So meaning 3 weeks in Miami, 3 weeks here. It really all depends on if my clients need me or not. And man, these guys are no good, these two. Driving around all crazy. You gotta watch the drivers in New York. Just look what happened last night. Not to draw too much attention to it, but yeah, it just really just depends on client needs. Now, I tend to work with a lot of the home healthcare organizations, large hospitals, nursing homes, assisted living facilities. And the interesting thing is that once COVID happened, a lot of the, I would say, well-capitalized home healthcare organizations started to acquire some of the smaller agencies. And then they were expanding all in Southern Florida, like Miami-Dade, specifically around the Aventura area. If anybody's familiar with that, the North Miami Beach area as well. So as they build out those offices and those presences there, I've been having to help. But hopefully during the winter I could spend more time in Miami, but we'll see. I love it down there. Anybody who's watching, I would, if you haven't been to Miami, Florida, I think it's a must. I think you really, really have to check it out. Now, I wouldn't go to any of the touristy places like South Beach. I would hang out near 72nd Street and North Beach. It is absolutely gorgeous there. And I promise you, you will not be disappointed. Derek says, I'm from upstate New York, Binghamton, New York. Not to go off topic, but I just got a really nice one-bedroom apartment for $483 a month. Holy crap. Wait, do you mean a week or a month? $483 a month. Or did you mean a week? Wait, Binghamton? I'm trying to think. I think you may mean a month. Wow, that's insane. talk about some perspective there. Now, if you want to get a one-bedroom apartment in Manhattan, right on the island of Manhattan, the average price is around $5,000. Now, that doesn't mean you can't find a one-bedroom apartment for less, but if you want to get, a decent place as a one-bedroom, it's probably going to run you $4,500 to $5,000. And that's why many people here live with roommates. Wow, Derek says, wow, a month, yeah, it's nuts. Hey, Life, Liberty, and Guns, we have been to Miami twice. Prior to a cruise, and we stayed at the Fontainebleau Hotel. So the Fontainebleau is South Beach, right? Or at least getting down there. It's a nice hotel. Really nice hotel. SAT 12 says, walks in Wall Street, the economy of America be like if there was no Christmas or any special concentrated buying period. I don't know. I do think that holidays really juice economic spending, and it stimulates the economy for sure. Hey, Jean Paul, good to see you. This is Fontainebleau is Mid-Beach. Man, this is a really, really nice shot of the Chrysler building in front of us. Hey, Daryl, good to see you. Brad's brain says, so my question is, does the average worker, say the trash guy, make 100 G's in New York? How else does somebody pay $5,000 a month in rent? So I'll first say this, right? You always see those big articles, the clickbaity articles about, $5,000 a month average rent in Manhattan or on the island. I think those articles tend to be a little bit misleading for obvious reasons, because if you take Manhattan, and if anybody's, just think back to your, college level statistics class. Manhattan is very, very diverse as it relates to socioeconomic status. So you could have a one-bedroom apartment on Billionaires Row, 57th Street, that literally, rents for, maybe $14,000 a month to $20,000 a month for a one-bedroom. And then you could have something all the way in East Harlem that you could find a one-bedroom for, maybe $2,700, $2,800. So I think the vast majority of people are not paying $5,000 a month. Also in Manhattan, a lot of people live with roommates. So to be honest, I think those headlines are a tad bit, technically they're not misleading, but you could find some deals that aren't, $5,000 a month. And also a lot of people live in the outer boroughs, right? Like the Bronx, Queens, Staten Island, Brooklyn, where you could also find cheaper rent. So this is Grand Central Terminal. Looks great with the Christmas wreath here. Dark Star says, I want to live in Harlem. One of my first places, I actually rented a room. An individual room I rented in Harlem. It was right off 126th. So if anybody's familiar, you know where the Whole Foods is? Right there on 125th Street. I was right on 126. It was actually a really, really nice neighborhood, by the way. Really beautiful brownstones. And I rented a room, an individual room there. I think it was $700 a month. Let me think. Yeah, I think it was 700 or maybe 800. Yeah, anyway, you get the point. But it was right there. It was pretty nice. It was actually nice. Now, again, as you get older, right, you probably It's not ideal to live with 5 other people, but if you want to come to New York when you're young and grind and try to, you know, build your career, you can afford $700 a month. Daryl says, Tom, do you like Astoria, Queens? Yeah, I love Astoria, Queens. Fred X, this is Bloomingdale windows, Tom, sometime. You know, we may do that today. If we can make it all the way up there, absolutely. Let's see. You know, I don't think I've ever been up there yet this holiday season. That's a good point. Fred X, thank you for the recommendation there. Now, what's really, really crazy is over the years, downtown Brooklyn has actually turned into a location that's almost as expensive as Manhattan, right? You can find some, and even more expensive. You can find some crazy, crazy expensive units in downtown Brooklyn. Williamsburg also is very expensive now. But I think if I had unlimited money, right? If money wasn't an issue, I think I would live in two neighborhoods specifically. Number one is I'd probably pick 157, that building. I love that building, 157 right there on Billionaires Row. But I also may pick the Upper West Side of Manhattan, specifically between 79th Street and 81st Street, right? So right there near the Museum of Natural History, Central Park West, gorgeous brownstones. I would probably buy an entire brownstone to live in if money wasn't an issue. That's just a beautiful, beautiful neighborhood, beautiful area. You're right in between Central Park and also Riverside Park too. So a lot of people, when they come visit New York, they always think about coming to visit Central Park. But I would really, really strongly recommend that you visit Riverside Park, because in many instances, it's actually better than Central Park, if you believe it or not. A lot less tourists. You're right on the Hudson River. It's beautiful. Palmetti says, I concur. So this is the Chrysler Building, very famous Chrysler Building. I'll give you guys a shot all the way at the top. Amazing Art Deco architecture here. And here you have One Vanderbilt again. Mike C says, I wonder what Yoko's place in the Dakota would go for. Wow, probably a lot. Probably a lot. She still lives there too. Hey, War Walker says, back in the day I paid $160 for a room on 165th Street in Spanish Harlem. Wow. How big was the room, War Walker? It's a pretty good deal. All right, we'll wait for the light. We'll cross here at 42nd. All right, we have the light. Hey Amanda says, hey Tom, what's the average hourly pay in New York City? Now I'm not sure the average hourly pay, but I know that the minimum wage is $15. But I'm not too sure what the average wage is in New York. Could anybody Google what the average household income is in Manhattan? Maybe, if I had to guess, maybe around 82,000. I would say for the average, maybe household income in New York City, let's say, it must be at least a couple points above the national average, would you say? Maybe a couple points above? All right, so we are now right outside Grand Central Station at Grand Central Terminal. But this is the back side. We could actually take a walk through here. Oh, FedEx is at 67,000. Wow. I would suspect it would be a little bit more than that, actually. Sean says moved to Houston. I wasn't a big fan of Texas when I went there. I mean, I like it, but I just never could see myself living there. Mainly because I don't like to drive. I hate driving. You know, I'll take you guys through Grand Central Station. Might as well. Haven't been there in a bit. We'll warm up. I'll give you one more shot of the Chrysler building, which is right in front of us. Oh, Brad's brain, that's right. You are moving to Houston. Well, best of luck on your move. All right, so we are going to go in the backside of Grand Central Terminal with these big, very heavy iron doors here. Sat 12 says, walks from Wall Street, the average annual household income is $107,000. Hey, Latasha says, I live in Houston, originally from Brooklyn, New York. I haven't had a car here for the last 4 years. Whoa, really? You know, I haven't been to Houston, but when I went to Austin, Texas, they have all of those, how am I forgetting the name of this? Scooters, there you go, thank you. Scooters all around, like the Lime scooters, and everything was so far spread away. Everything was so far apart, but with the scooters, you just scan the QR code, you jump on. It wasn't too bad, but I just couldn't see myself living there long term. Also, I love the water, right? Being on Long Island, obviously right next to the ocean, Jones Beach, Tobay Beach. Latasha says, Tom, the medical center in Houston is walkable and has public transportation, Metrobus, and the train. Very nice. All right, here we are once again in Grand Central Station. Hey, Barry Bell says, Tom, I left the rat race in New York City 20 years ago for Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I haven't regretted it yet. That's awesome. You probably have a lot of nice, probably have a lot more space too, right? Wow, Sean is like, Tom, I have a 2,800 square foot townhome, 1 block from the water, $2,000 a month. Whew. That is a bargain of a price. I think we've finally worked off all my hiccups. I think they're totally gone. Thank God. That was horrible. So this is my favorite shot of Grand Central Terminal. You see the American flag in the background. Latasha, Tom, Texas overall is very spread out, and you do have to drive almost everywhere. I definitely miss New York because it's easier to get around. Yeah, that's true. I also found that Miami, Florida, it's not too bad on the public transportation, at least for the places I need to go to, right? Now, the good thing is the bus is right outside of my house. So I just jump on the 3 bus and it takes me all the way to downtown Miami. And then I take the Metro Mover to Brickell. So I guess you get used to it. Hey, Jason Sean says, hey Tom, long time. I was looking to visit New York City in January, but international flights are insanely expensive over this time. Dude, I couldn't believe it as well. So I was looking at flights to Korea, and all of them are well over $1,000, which is surprising because, one of the things I wanted to talk about today as well is we're seeing this big divergence here between crude oil and the XLE, which is the ETF, the Spiders ETF that tracks the energy sector, right? So if you type in XLE into Google, one of the first things that'll pop up is the Spiders website, and it'll break down the top 10 holdings in that ETF. And it'll be, I think the top holding is ExxonMobil, ticker symbol XOM. Now, historically, and if you want to go to my Twitter feed, because I actually posted this so you guys could see a visual. So if you follow at Walks Wall Street on Twitter, the last thing I tweeted was a chart where I overlaid the crude oil futures contract, so ticker symbol CL. CL1 is the contract that I look at. And then the XLE, and you're seeing this huge divergence. And I think that means this energy trade is getting a little bit long in the tooth. So what I mean by that is, if we're seeing crude oil decline here, now if you think back of when we hit our all-time high, well, I should say 52-week high, I think it was March 13th. Light crude was trading at $130 a barrel, and now I think we're trading at like $84. So why aren't airline tickets declining materially? Now, I know that's not the only factor, right? This is a really nice menorah here. That's right, it's going to be Hanukkah soon too. We're in the full swing of the holiday season for sure. Hey, Emma's here. Good to see you. Says, hey Tom, welcome. Aaron says, I love the ceiling in Grand Central Station, and the light show is absolutely beautiful. I agree. Derek says, what does the ticker symbol mean? It's like the ticker, so you could look up like what it's traded under, right? So for example, Apple, the ticker is AAPL. So it's just an easier way to find the what do you call it? The stock quote. You just punch in the ticker. So we're coming up on the Yale Club, and also if you look directly in front of you, this is going to be Jamie Dimon's new tower. It's going to be the JP Morgan Chase headquarters. Sparks Carnival says Kroger groceries reports next week. Good indicator of how much consumers spent for Thanksgiving. Kroger will crush it. Well, I don't think I think it's the quarter ended September, right? So I'm not sure if we're going to get Thanksgiving data in there. I could be wrong, but isn't that going to be Q3 ended September? So I think next earnings report will have the Thanksgiving data in it. You could be right. Now, Kroger's merging with what, Albertsons? And I think the FTC is going to require them to sell off some of their individual stores to different subsidiaries, which actually I don't agree with. I actually don't agree with that at all, to be honest, because I think that Amazon, we're now passing the Yale Club. If you think about, and we've talked about this on the stream before, as it relates to Walmart, Amazon. When I'm talking about Amazon in relation to grocery, I'm referring to Whole Foods. Now, I think the person who's going to be the big winner in grocery is going to be the company that dominates in delivery and also mobile order and pay and pickup. And right now, I think Walmart and Amazon specifically are, number one, the most well capitalized, but already have the most infrastructure in place to really, really kill it on delivery. And a lot of other smaller chains do not. And it's almost like a perpetual never-ending cycle, because many Americans were slowly becoming conditioned to the fact that we need everything either same day or next day delivery. So a lot of these services is what you call loss leaders for these businesses, right? Amazon doesn't make any money off of getting you a product the next day. It's sort of like a loss leader, right? So if they can get you in with, Prime subscriptions to get next day delivery, well, maybe you'll buy something else, right? Maybe you'll sign up for, and you'll keep your monthly subscription for Prime and other things like that. So I don't know. I think if you have three main players in the industry, I think that's actually pretty fine, especially in the environment we're in. Michael Joseph, I saw that. The Microsoft Activation deal is under scrutiny now too. I saw that. Wow, not a 3D says you have to tip the driver with Walmart. I'll stick with Amazon. I didn't know that. I'll give you guys another look at the JP Morgan Chase building. This thing's going to be amazing once it's all built. So right down here is Park Avenue, and this is really what Wall Street is, right? I know that down in Lower Manhattan, that is where the technical, physical street of Wall Street is. But now that we have electronic trading, quantitative trading, and you don't physically need to be down on Wall Street, right? Much of the financial institutions have moved uptown to Midtown and Park Avenue specifically. So a lot of the big hedge funds, investment banks, proprietary trading firms are actually on Park Avenue. Now, there's still some major investment banks in Times Square. You can think about Morgan Stanley, also right in Times Square. And we actually covered this back in September when we did our anniversary of the Lehman Brothers collapse live stream. Now, when Lehman Brothers collapsed, that really kicked off the great financial crisis. And in that process, Barclays, which is another major investment bank, actually took over Lehman Brothers' office. And we actually may pass it tonight on the stream, depending on how far we get. But very few banks, and I think Deutsche Bank now, their major flagship location right on Wall Street, is now up here at 59th Street, Columbus Circle. They took over the Time Warner Center, and it is now called the Deutsche Bank Tower. So now they're even not on Wall Street. So kind of interesting to see how it all played out. You're now looking at 432 Park Avenue, which is a beautiful building on Billionaires Row, but it does come with some problems. Yeah, Vance says you do not need Prime to get free delivery. Look at the delivery options and choose free, although it takes more days. Yeah, but I think that's the point, right? Isn't that the point? It seems like Americans are conditioned for instant gratification. They want to get everything same day or next day delivery. Now, the other thing, it's really, really hard to do that here in the United States for a pretty obvious reason, right? So a lot of my friends in Korea, you know, if you order something online in Korea, it could actually come same day in many cases. Almost 100% of the time it comes next day. And that's just because the geography of Korea is so condensed and so small. I mean, the United States is a massive, massive country. So assuming you live in a flyover state, something like that, I really think that next day and same day delivery is probably going to be almost impossible. But I think it will be possible in very condensed metropolitan areas. But it's a good point because I'm not sure if anybody in the chat is from Korea or has been there. Very, very efficient there with delivery, mobile order and pay, things like that. Okay, so now we are at the back of Saks Fifth Avenue. Let's actually turn down here. Since we're here, we'll see the light display. But if you guys have enjoyed the live stream so far, feel free to leave a like on the video and hit the subscribe button if you're new. We do these live streams about 5 days a week between New York City and Miami, and we would love to have you guys along for the ride. Now, I think this is the employee entrance maybe for Saks Fifth Avenue. Jeff 277. I'm not too sure about that, actually. I don't think so. Oh, he's getting arrested. That's not good. I think that guy was getting arrested. Hey, the Mighty Bull is here. Good to see you, Mighty Bull. Valos is our third of delivery driver, or 1/3 at FedEx. I know that FedEx just went through a massive amount of layoffs too, didn't they? So this is the holiday lights display outside of Saks Fifth Avenue here. Hey, Cindy Foley is here. Good to see you, Cindy. Friendship Lights, good to see you. Wow. So Valor Rabbits is Tom, third contracted delivery drivers. I don't know the company because they switched over shortly after I was hired. Wow. So this is the main Christmas tree here at Rockefeller Center. So on tomorrow night's live stream, everybody, we will be going live at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. I do want to spend a lot of time on yield curve analysis. So we're going to be talking about what the yield curve actually is, how we can interpret it as a leading indicator for the stock market and the economy, and do a real deep dive into that. I was going to do that today, but I don't know, it was crazy. The first half of the stream, I had this hiccup fit. I do apologize for that. So tomorrow we will be doing a deep dive into the yield curve, how to interpret it appropriately. I think there's a lot of, I wouldn't say false information, but I think a lot of people, especially on Main Street, interpret the yield curve in the inappropriate way. And we will do a deep dive into how to interpret it the appropriate way. And how we can draw conclusions from the past and predict, or hopefully try to predict or project future returns in the financial markets based upon where the yield curve is, where it came from, and where it is going. So team, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I completely lost track of time. We've been streaming for about 2 hours and 15 minutes, but we will be back here live tomorrow, 8:30 Eastern time. If you want to stay up to date on more of our financial talks, if you scan the QR code on the screen and punch in your email, we do write a free financial newsletter where we talk about the US equity markets, emerging markets, fixed income, and real estate. So please join us over there, scan the QR code, punch in your email, and we will see you tomorrow. So thanks everybody for joining. Kelly, hopefully you had a good Thanksgiving. Using People, Samantha R. Austin City Limits, Love is Kind, Emma. Mimi, thank you so much. Sparks Carnival, Karina Thompson. Mustafa Muhammad, the one and only Fred X. Joe Driver, Abdullah Nanbu, thank you so much. Valor Rabbit, I appreciate you. Joan K, all of our new people and new subscribers, thank you. I think we hit 25,000 people on the stream, so that is absolutely fantastic. It's been a very, very fun time doing these streams and getting to know all of you. I think we're building something very, very interesting. So that's all I got. I'll cut you guys loose and we'll meet back here tomorrow, 8:30. Have a good weekend.